Shalom, shalom. All praises. Give it up to the Most High. Ahaya. Name of Yeshua. Okay, you can sit because we're gonna get right through this, believe it or not. Believe it or not, we're gonna get right through this. First of all, I would like to say all praises be to the Most High and thank you all for your presence on this blessed dedication day. And we're going to go into it today. Okay, y'all can hear me clearly, right? Because we're going to find out what dedication is really about. Why is it so important? Okay, why is it so important? So I titled this Dedication Through the Tribulation. Because these times was prophesied, and there's a distinct purpose when it comes to Christ that many don't talk about this time of year. Because this time of year, we're giving thanks to who? We're giving thanks to Caesar for conquering the Gadites here in North America. And it have stolen the spirit of what dedication is really about. I don't know if y'all know this, brothers and sisters. Every time there's a high holy day coming up, Satan has his own holy day in an attempt to steal the spirit of this time of year. And you hear Christians speaking about Thanksgiving, and of course they don't know better. They're just giving thanks for their life and breath. And okay, if they don't know any better, grace covers them, but what are they losing? How can you talk about this time of year and not relate it to what happened to Christ at this same time? At this same time of year is when the world powers began to conspire to kill Christ. He did something. His ministry actually started. I'm talking about when he began to offend the politicians on dedication. And there was a reason. Let me set the table for you. Let's set the table for you. Let's set the table. It was prophesied that a servant would come, a king would come through the bloodline or the seed of David. It was prophesied. So by the time Christ came on the scene, the Roman Empire, along with the Herod family, had a plan in place. And it was all about that temple that was reestablished. If they could control that temple in Israel and destroy the king, listen to me clearly, they would have the position within the earth that would allow Satan to get back to the sides of the north. They needed that temple. But it was prophesied that Christ would come and tear down that temple and build it back up in 3 days. Now understand the threat politically that was going on at that time. And what does this have to do with us? Well, that and more will be discussed in this lesson. The dedication through tribulation. When we hear about the dedication of the Maccabees, we rarely hear, even when you hear them speaking about Hanukkah, this time of year, when the temple was restored, even when the Jewish people talk about this time of year, they strictly stick to the story of the Maccabeans, the Levites, restoring the temple. But what they don't tell you is that we restored the temple because they destroyed it. But they didn't restore the temple strictly so that our God could be worshiped. They had another plan. So we're going to go into this dedication today. And we're going to go way back before Christ. We're going to go around 167, around that time. There was this evil guy by the name of Antiochus Epiphanes, a Grecian, where he had a plan. Now, he's a remnant out of the families of Alexander. There were generals, 4 generals, as you all know. And Antiochus was wicked and evil, an Edomite. But he understood in order for them to get the temple, they would need to do something to our people first. Understand their target. When they're targeting the temple of God with their ultimate plan, they cannot do it unless they target the children of God. Because we're the resistance between what? We're the resistance between the temple and them accomplishing their plan for their God. So understand, we'll always be in tribulation. This is why they seek to disturb us. They seek to continually distract us, understanding our role. So we're going to bring this all together, starting with that Grecian, that evil one, Antiochus. So they had to lure us into participating under Greek customs first. Right? So if we don't take care of the temple and start focusing on the things that Antiochus have set up, they can now come behind us with their diabolical plan. And I'm going to show you how important this is. Chapter and verse, Elder Lawya, let's get it.
Yes, sir. 1 Maccabees 1, verse 10.
Read it.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes.
Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. Read.
Son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days there went out of Israel wicked men.
And there went out of Israel amongst our people wicked men. These were men who were willing to betray our people and the temple for status, so that they can have status and power with the political government established to destroy us. Today, we can relate that to a lot of these organizations we see today, which are front organizations before us. Understand? And they're propagating, they're perpetrating a fraud as if they're really for us. But the elite has funded them. Right? These wicked men, which are really infiltrators for the enemy. And there's a lot of organizations that have been established like that till this day. A lot of them. We can name them. NAACP. We can name them. On and on and on. Those that are aligned with some of the, what you would call sports teams to some level. Right? And who don't like a good game? Of course we like sports. But understand that they have another ideology behind it, because through that they have the eyes and ears of the population in which they can initiate you into their service and their plan to get to that temple. You notice how every game they bring the army out? You notice that? And it's all about philanthropy and all that, but we don't understand the ritualistic side of things. We're going to break it down. Right? They went out wicked men out of our people. Read.
Who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
Let us go make an agreement with those who are seeking to destroy us. Right? It's like this. If we can't beat them, let's join them. The cowards of our people who are willing to sell us out. Like you would see under the political structure today. Like the Black Caucus, who we believe represents us. But when you look at what they represent in our communities, you'll see their true plan. Their true plan was to help destroy us. Obviously. And see, America did something very, very, I would say, calculating. This is how they did it. In the Constitution, they made a separation between church and state. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a good idea. But by doing so, those who are in the Bible stop viewing the world politically, not understanding that it's politics to why they killed Christ. It's politics to why they wanted the temple. These were government initiatives. But if you're only looking at the Bible strictly for praise and worshiping, which is good, and just reading and wisdom, and that's good, but not understanding the political ramifications throughout history, you're lost concerning its prophecy. This was politics. They say, listen, let's go pay some of their own people. Not just any of their people. We're going to pay some of their high professionals, their intellectuals. We're going to pay people amongst them with many gifts whom their own people respect. And we'll work through them. This is history I'm talking about here. Read.
Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So by not compromising, the Edomite powers were giving our people hell. Similar to like we see now. You notice how we do all the voting and all this others, and we get someone in, and they do something for everyone else, and we're sitting there holding our hands saying, what's going on here? You notice how they intentionally lie, and then afterwards come behind us and give millions of dollars to wars and everyone else, to Israel, to Ukraine. You notice how they do that? You know why? Because they know some of our people is going to say, well, listen, what do we have to do to not suffer as our people? They know there's always a remnant of our people who will say, listen, I would rather survive temporally with this empire than die with my people. So they'll squeeze the people. How do you squeeze them? And I'm linking it up to today. You squeeze them by just spending money. And you might think, well, what's wrong with them just spending money? Well, if they spend money on nothing and give it to everyone else, it crushes the bottom of any population. Because the more you spend, the less your dollar's worth. So if you send it to war here and war here and war here, the bottom is crushed because all of your products goes up and the poor suffers. That's how they do it without letting you know they're actually not only stealing and robbing from you, they're killing you. This is how it's done. If they can hike the gas prices up, then everything you buy goes up because you need gasoline or petrol to what? To drive your car to work, right? For all the goods to come into your neighborhoods, food and everything. Well, if the gas prices go up, then guess what else goes up? The products the trucks are carrying goes up because it needs gasoline. And now you're looking at a pack of beef bacon for $30. And you wonder, like, this is how it works. They crush you politically. And what they do, and what they do is they put it in your face. They say, listen, we're going to crush you right up under you. And guess what? And when there's a disease or something, we're going to make sure that you're first in line. That's how much we care for you. And you never relate that politically to history according to what the Bible narrative stated that they would always do. Listen how I'm showing you this. Read it.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
They gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Similar, and I'm relating it to what we can actually relate to. Give them license. So you notice that when we started thriving here in America and others, they began to put regulations in place. We are making our own wine, our own moonshine, our own this, our own juke joints, our own places to entertain, whatever the case might be. You notice they started regulating licenses for everything. That only our people who was down with destroying our people would be allowed to deal with commerce and trade even amongst their own community. You would have a license with them to do business. See that? And it's what our people, watch anybody tell you. Watch when people tell you, even on your job and all that. This is how you know you got something sinister next to you. You got to know how to play the game. Watch a person who says that. You got to know the game. You know, you got to know not to ruffle any feathers. Watch people like that. Whoever experienced that at a corporate job, the brown noser, sitting there saying, you just got to know how to play the game, man. You got to know how to, you got to know how to operate with these white folk. So there's always a number of those who's willing to betray the prophetic people. Read on. 14.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem.
They built a place of exercise, right? Gyms. Because with gyms, you had the games. And with the games, you can influence the city through the marbs. Eventually, Rome perfected that as the Colosseum. Today, it has become television. See? So if you can get all eyeballs and ears in one place, you can bring forth any initiative from one year to the next. Right? You see how it works, right? You see how during the so-called the only thing people can do is, here it is, we got something going on where everybody, there's an airborne something, but you still got sports right there in front of you, even with no audiences. Even without the audience. They didn't care because they had the audience in the house with nothing else to do but to get programmed. And then stop racism. All these messages all on the court. Let's go hand in hand. We can destroy racism. At the same time, planning to destroy everyone. One message. They would use a place of exercise. Right? Because who don't like a good sport, right? And they understood this was a way of satisfying the warrior class of our people. Right? Because where are you going to get out all that aggression? Through oppression. They would send us to war. We would take things down and come back and feeling better. Right? But now they can take that war aggression through competition. Therefore, we're exerting all of that energy of warfare amongst one another and not against those who are oppressing us. So Antiochus had a plan. Well, what are we going to do about these warriors? Let's put them in the arena. Have them fight. Reward them for their physical prowess. And now we can create what? Role models out of these people of exercise who will go into their community and do what? And do our bidding for us politically. They'll be heroes. Right? A place of exercise. You would have people who in sports who have no academia knowledge at all that would have more influence than the President of the United States amongst his people. Right now, who would you rather hang around? LeBron James or Joe Biden? Think about it. Right? Read on.
14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem,
Read.
according to the customs of the heathen.
According to the customs of the heathen. Read.
And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
And was sold to do mischief. So it says what? They began to become what? Uncircumcised. They began to forget their true passion as Israel to defend the temple, to stand for your people at all cost. And they became what? In a Gentile state of mind. What is Feast of Dedications? Give me Thanksgiving. Okay? Give me Thanksgiving. Hey, what is Purim? Give me Christmas. And you notice, and they do this every year. I remember this, and I never thought about it. Every year there's a new Christmas album by some of the best artists you can think about. You know, y'all notice that? Whitney had one. Boys the Men had one. Then you go back, way back before when they was having big cameras that you needed 3 people to carry. Nat King Cole had one. Now, it's not that these people were evil or wrong, right? They were just doing what they knew to do to survive. But the elite people, like the Boulets and like those of the Prince Hall Masonry, high 33 degree, that was over the music business and over the entertainment business and over the sports business for our people, knew exactly what they were doing. How do we know they know exactly what they're doing? Because when you look at the degrees of Freemasonry, and a lot of them have repented, a lot of them are in the church today. Okay? When you look at Freemasonry to each degree, you got to read certain books. You got to know the Bible. You got to know Maccabees. And you have to know, don't forget, there's one degree where you have to learn the book of Jasher in the Prince Hall Freemasonry. So they had a lot of these books, reading it to get degrees of knowledge of history before we did. So these are the people they're putting over the organizations to keep us asleep, like Antiochus Epiphanes. And this is why the president and others will always play the Black Caucus, the NAACP, organizations that they actually created and have control over. It's the what? You got it. It's the Antiochus Epiphanes playbook. Now, this was years before Christ. Now, through this, eventually, this man would plan to destroy our temple and say, this is, from this place is where the Israelites derive the source of their power. Now, they got us distracted from the temple, and now this guy is seeking to destroy it, understanding that our power from heaven resides through this very place. If we can separate them from their temple, eventually the children of Israel and their children will serve our children, and they'll be forced to worship in our satanic temples. So check it out. They distract us, pay sellouts to betray us, and then seek to destroy the temple, and that led to a serious revolt. That led to a revolt. The Maccabeans of Levi, our brothers Benjamin and Judah in Judea began, folks. We began what you would call at that time. Now, the Romans, well, the others, the Greeks and all of that, they wanted to call it a quasi-guerrilla warfare. But it wasn't that. We revolted. What you see with Martin Luther King and all that others, when they started doing things politically to disturb the upward mobility of a country, that's what we started doing. We started doing everything. If you're not hooking us up, everything stops. So we started revolting. And there was a clear separation between the sellouts and those who were down with the temple. See, I'm breaking this down politically so you can understand the importance of Christ for this very same day. It first starts off with Antiochus. Read on, Elder Lawyer.
Verse 41.
And we're going to find out what Antiochus's plan was, his ultimate plan, to bring all people of all races, of all countries, to leave off their own customs and culture, and bring them into the one mind that was at Babylon. No longer will everyone have their separate cultures. Nah. Oh, you an Arab? You like Allah? Okay. What, you an East Indian? You want Buddha? All right. Okay, that's fine. Oh, you want Caesar Borgia? That's fine. Let's bring them all into a country. And one generation from the person who came from their culture would have a different child. And that child would be under a different ideology, separated from their culture. Sounds familiar? Okay. Hey, there's full-blooded Asian women here in the United States who are born here with Becky voices. Oh, yeah. Hi. Like, I'm like, what is this? They've been initiated into the Antiochus Epiphanes way. It only takes one. That's why they don't care about the immigrants coming over and what they believe. They have their children. Their children will be initiated into the Antiochus Epiphanes plan. This is why the Most High pointed out this one Edomite more so than any other one. This guy was notorious in history. Okay, even Alexander the Greek had more respect for our priests. Even Alexander had more respect. Alexander was a terror throughout the whole earth. And no sooner as he came to the shores of the Levites, he said, listen, I was shown in a dream that your God gave me the understanding that I would conquer Darius. It was your God who put me in position, and I would like to sacrifice to him. And bowed to the Levites who were sitting there with a mitre on. It tell you that in the book of Josephus. That even Alexander had to acknowledge the God of Israel. But not Antiochus. He had a plan. Listen to this. Come on.
41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
All should be one people. All should be one people. We don't want to hear about what you believe and what your forefathers believe. When you get up under this empire, You must follow the holy days of this empire. You must honor, that's right, you must honor Easter above Passover. You must honor all the holy days of the pagans above the God of Israel holy days. You must become what? Citizens of the Western world. That whole idea came from Antiochus Epiphanes. Read.
42. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
They all agreed according to the commandment of the king. So it wasn't just our people selling out their own people. Look at all the people that have come over here from their own countries that have no desire at all to go back to help their own people. Same thing. Now I'm going to show you what, after the revolt, right, when it comes to the dedicating the temple back, because of course Antiochus began to destroy the temple. There was a revolt amongst our people to say, no, we need to get the heathen out of there. They were sacrificing pigs on the altar. And the Maccabeans, they all came together and said, you know what, it's time. Even if we have to fight with our own lives, we have to clean up our temple. Because why? The further our people got away from that temple, the worse our lives became. The more they can get us to separate and deal with their holy days and all these others, the worse off our children are. The worse off circumstances become. And this is why they'll finance us to actually follow these holy days. Like I say every year, this is the only time of year that your boss is actually friendly to you. Hi, you coming to the Christmas party? Hey, Tom, you coming to the Christmas party? Oh, yeah, did you get your Christmas bonus? I'm like, man, you wrote me up last week. What is this? All right? I'm going to tell you, it's still in that spirit that really should be going towards our God, our holy day. And they're absorbing all that energy. Right? Even Satan himself said he will be like God. He wants people to reverence him during these spiritual times. When the season change, something happens. And they're trying to steal that power that comes in the earth. Right? Read on, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse number 43.
Come on.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
So we started sacrificing our idols and profaning the Sabbath. Sunday worship, anyone? And we're talking about the 2nd century, right about the time, right up to the time Christ would come into the earth. We got our people already celebrating pagan holidays. Right? Read.
44. For the king sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. So
now we were forced to follow the strange laws of the land. I don't know if y'all noticed, folks. It was all about initiating us into their paganism. I don't know if you noticed. It doesn't matter if you are of Judaism, Christianity, Christians, no matter what they are in America, if you listen to them even on TV, they're saying, oh, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Like, aren't you following Torah? What are you saying happy Thanksgiving for? Right? Merry Christmas. Hold up. I know you don't celebrate Christmas, but do you? But do you? I'm starting to believe the whole con job is on us. I believe they're saying it to convince us to do it. They're already doing it. They've moved all of their so-called holy days, which is Torah, and moved it in proximity of Christmas and others to not let the world know that they've always celebrated these days. Okay? They've always done it. That's right, folks. The joke is on us. They're doing it so to have us believe it's all right for our people to do it. So now our people began to do what? Through time, teach their children to follow pagan holy days. Now I need you to go, Elder Lawya, to after the revolt. There's one thing I'm going to show you where they opened our books of the law in the temple, and began to what? Paint their faces in our records at the temple. So not only did they go into the temple, sacrifice pigs in the temple, they brought artists into the temple and began to what? Draw Grecian pictures in our records, so to make people believe that the Israelites were white. They started back then. Now, let me make it clear. And I'm going to say this, and guess what? And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it clear. I would have no problem following Christ and the Israelites and others if they were white people. Let me make that clear. And how do you know this? We followed Christ and the Bible when we thought they were white people. Okay? So this ain't no thing to say, oh, hey, hold up now. They were all black. We just setting the record straight. So to save our people and have us understand the difference. The difference between their belief and their God and ours. So not only were they tricking our people into worshiping these pagan days and rewarding them to do so, on top of that, they were looking to distort future history by painting their images in our records. Right? Let's read it, Elder Lawya.
Yes, sir. 1 Maccabees 3:46.
Come on.
Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mashpah over against Jerusalem. For in Mashpah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes.
Come on.
And laid open the book of the law.
And they opened the book of the law. They opened the Torah, read.
Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Where the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their images. So what we see in our time growing up, our grandmother's Bible, our mother's Bible on the mantelpiece, with all these Greek and Roman looking people, that wasn't a new thing. They tried to do this during the time that our people were taking back the temple. So they were desecrating our records, showing their plan to erase the true Israelites from history. Okay? So the Most High had it where the Maccabees would take over and rededicate that temple to us. Okay? There wasn't enough. Y'all know the whole story. He made sure there was enough light, and we cleaned that temple up. See, but there's something politically wrong happened a little after that. During Hanukkah time, and y'all know the story, there were some Edomites that now we needed some get right with, and say, listen, either you get out of our land, either you get out or convert to our belief. We will no longer allow you to infiltrate us. We won the battle. The temple was restored. The temple was dedicated back. The battle was won, and now we're giving Esau in the area a choice. You are our brother. We know you have done wrong. Okay. Now, of course, we dealt with the traitors. The traitors had to stay on the outside. We weren't dealing with no traitors and heathens. Even our people, if they wanted to do right, they would have to leave the ideology of Antiochus and convert back to following the true God of Israel, that Torah and that Tanakh. And he told the Edomites, if you're going to stay in this land during the time of Hanukkah, you're going to have to believe in our God and put off your heathen practices. Hundreds of thousands of Edomites converted. Right? Now, I have something, Elder Lawya, I want you to read if you can pull that up. And this breaks down the Edomite ascendancy. How did the Edomites lose the battle? How did they lose the battle but use that battle to infiltrate for the future? How is it by the time Christ was born, some 130 some odd years later, about 150 years later, how is it now you got an Edomite by the name of Herod the Greek sitting as governor or king of Judea? Well, I know I usually do this in the academy, but I want to read a few things out of here. Right? Let's go to we closed our last chapter, Elder Lawya, where it says we closed our last chapter. We're going to go here. We closed our last chapter. This is actually chapter 6 called the Edomite ascendancy. I'm going to be going into this, don't worry about it, where their historians were able to track how Esau was able to move from the Maccabean period, from the time the temple was dedicated, into power. How they were able to infiltrate as Israelites or Jews by the time Christ would be born. Check this out, right? I'm going to put it up on the screen so our brothers and sisters out there can hear it also, okay? We put it on the screen here. Elder Lawya, if you will,
yes,
it
sir.
says, we closed our last chapter.
Yes, sir. We closed our last chapter with Hyrcanus still occupying the office of the high priest under the patronage, though really the authority of Antipater, and both subject to Scipio. Antigonus also remained, or long remained, of the adult Asmonean princes, and he was still in captivity. We now hasten onto the events of the last century, ere the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ.
So this is the last century leading to Christ, right? Read Antipater.
Yes, sir. Antipater had been able to ingratiate himself with Caesar in his expedition against the Pontians and Cappadocians.
Come on.
And in return, the dictator made him a free citizen of Rome and constituted him procurator of Judea. Thus have the craft.
So it says, and constituted Antipater what?
Him procurator of Judea.
Procurator of Judea. So who is Antipater? Antipater is the grandfather of Herod the Greek, whom they call Herod the Great. Well, Antipater was amongst those who eventually was converted and allowed to stay in the land after we dedicated the temple. So now you got this Edomite family who aligned himself with Caesar and became what? Procurator of Judea. Politically, they moved themselves in position. Procurator of Judea, read.
Thus had the crafty Edomite reached a position.
Thus had the crafty what?
Edomite reached a position.
The crafty Edomite reached the position. Infiltrator. It says a crafty Edomite now Did what?
Reached a position.
Reached the position, read.
For which he had long been scheming.
They've been scheming to get Judea because they needed what? An Edomite in place to kill the promised child. My body, my choice. Read.
He remained the friend and patron of Hyrcanus and supported him against the appeals of Antigonus, who was endeavoring to win the favor of Caesar. But the procurator was no longer a young man. His honors had been late in coming, and he found the additional burdens heavy to bear. Now
go down to where it says Hyrcanus 130 BC.
Yes, sir. On the other hand, it should not be forgotten that Idumea had been conquered by John Hyrcanus.
It says, read that again.
It should not be forgotten that Idumea had been conquered by John Hyrcanus 130 BC.
130 BC, read.
And the nation forcibly converted and circumcised, so that Antipater and his descendants, though of the house of Esau,
read.
Were now Jews in religion.
That's your origin of what we call modern day Jewry. I didn't come up with this history, okay? It's their historians tell you where Edomites became Jews by religion. And this is why these other religions out here they don't view Herod, the Greek, or the Idumean as a wicked evildoer who attempted to kill the Messiah. You never hear any stories of this Herod whose plan was to kill the Savior of our people, the Savior of the world. As if they celebrate him as Herod the Great for attempting to kill the child. Right? And we're now Jews in religion, read.
At least outwardly. And the after history of the family shows that they valued Judaism.
They valued what?
Judaism.
They valued Judaism
from a religio-political standpoint.
So it wasn't more so about believing in the God of the Torah, but to use the title or position to politically posture themselves. Through what? Through high rungs of power, through government, religion, or wherever they can gain influence to do their will and the will of their God. So it was more so a political play. Are y'all following me here? Right? Read.
It says,
their constant efforts.
Yes, sir. Their constant efforts being in opposition to the Grecianizing policy of some of the Jewish rulers.
Read.
The glory of their race they conceived to be bound up with the triumph of the ancient ritual. It was Esau's last and fruitless effort.
To do what?
To obtain the blessing of Jacob.
To take the blessings from Jacob. This was his power play. Here's an opportunity for us to take Jacob's place. Folks, I got the history right here. What y'all talking about? I should save all the good stuff for the academy. They be getting mad at me. Come on now. Well, join the academy then. It says, and guess what? These historical records are not our people. This is their people telling us how Esau infiltrated, and that's why you can't find them in history or any of the religions they are a part of. They strategically wrote this out of history so to make us believe Esau disappeared. But now we're seeing, once we dedicated the temple, there was a plan. The plan was, we're going to get Judea, and once we get Judea, instead of taking over, instead of destroying the temple like Antiochus did, we're going to utilize the temple. It's going to become not only, folks, the religious pinnacle for my people, it will also become the financial power structure for our people. Folks, what am I telling you here? Their plan was to run the government from the temple, religiously as well as politically. And this is why Christ beat them out of the temple. They were going to use it for what they're using Wall Street and the financial system for today, but they were going to do it from that spot. They had a plan. Because with the temple, if they compromise, guess what? They wouldn't get any resistance from us helping them in their initiatives. So it's like, no, we're not going to do it Antiochus' way. We're going to do it as the people, so to have their own people now not what? Not revolt like the Maccabeans revolted. If we destroy the temple, it will divide their people, and now we don't have any political backing. But if we keep the temple, their people will help us consolidate power against their own people. Hence the reason till this day, even civil rights and all that, wherever we revolted, they was like, I marched with you. I was there and helped you. You notice there's a political alliance you could never ascertain. Because you don't understand, in order for them to accomplish what they need to accomplish, they must have the spirit of our people to back it. They can't do anything unless we agree to back it. Antiochus showed us this, and it was shown right here. Folks, they wanted to use the temple. But I'm going to show you about this temple. Elder Lawya, let's go to John 2 and 13. I'm going to show you. Now, by this time, before you go there, let's go to now Herod, the grandson of Antipas now, who has now made himself, through that family line, king of Judea, the governor.
Yes, sir. St. Matthew 2:1.
St. Matthew, come on, 2:1, let's read it.
Yes, sir. Now when Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews?
Where is he that are born king of the Jews? Now these were top astronomers. When you look into these wise men, they was also Chaldeans. They understood the workings of the stars when it comes to prophecy. Now there's a difference between astrology and astronomy. So now Esau has his kid in place, Herod, saying, bring me the boy so I could worship him. But did Herod really want to worship this child? No. He wanted to kill the boy. Why? Because of the prophecy concerning that temple. We already had what? We already had Antiochus to try to take and destroy the temple. Even before that, Nehemiah restored that well before then, under Darius, right? So it was always an attack, right? Where the governments of the world were seeking to get that temple. Y'all notice that? And then you don't even relate that geopolitically to why they're fighting over in the Holy Land right now. What's going on there spiritually? What are they trying to achieve? Well, Christ got in the way of that achievement. Okay? Christ got in the way. I'm going to show you. This is why it took them so long to get back there, to consolidate the governmental power they had back here. They were closer to Satan's plan using the temple back then than they are now. And Christ foiled it. And this is why the Feast of Dedication is so important, because you have to actually be able to teach this to our children, the importance of these holy days historically. And now why, all of a sudden, instead of trying to destroy a building, they're seeking to destroy us. It all comes together. Let's read Herod. Come on.
Yes, sir. Saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
He was troubled, Herod was. He's an Edomite now, and he's the grandson of Antipas, the one who converted into Judaism. That's where you get the term Jews from. These are the Edomites who converted during the time of Hyrcanus in the 2nd century. Now you have a remnant of them in position. Bring the child. Now, without going into the whole story, because you all know how it goes, the angel told his mother and father, go into Egypt, because that demon Herod seeks your life. Right? And then what Herod does? He go and kill all the children, 2 years old and back. He said, listen, I don't care if they're male or female. We're killing them all. You find a child 2 years or under, kill it. And the Bible talks about this. And in the annals of Rome, it speaks of the crying and all of that happened amongst our women, where our women at that time refused to operate at all with their government based on them killing their children. All the women backed away and say, we're done with it. They were spitting on the Roman, they were spitting on the Roman centurion's feet. We're done with your kingdom. We're not helping your kingdom. You've killed our children. And the Most High had Herod the Edomite, the Greek, die one of the most hideous deaths known to man. When you read about the story in the Josephus and other areas, he died at that time. He died the most excruciating death since Adam. That's how much the Most High loathed the evil in this man, because he wasn't just trying to kill the Son of God who came to help us. He tried to destroy all of us. My body, my choice. Now, Elder Lawya.
Yes, sir.
And rounding out, let's go to the temple. John 2:13.
Yes, sir. St. John 2:13.
Read.
And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Yeshua went up to Jerusalem.
Hold up, before we go there, the Passover was at hand. He went up to Jerusalem. Read on.
And found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting. And when he had...
So he found what?
The changers of money sitting.
The changers of money sitting. Now, so many people get this confused of what this was. When you go into the history of the changers of money, it's no different than what you see in New York at Wall Street. They were dealing with the trade throughout all the Mesopotamian area, using the temple as a stock market. Oh, okay. See, I'm bringing it all together for you. Using the temple for the stock market, for trade. And then with our people, in order for your sins to be forgiven, they had shops set up in the temple now, where you buy your sacrifice from them to have your sins forgiven. So forgiveness of sins, now, it doesn't go through us. It goes through them. Like your Pope, who claim he has the power to absolve sins. Y'all see this? So now they was going to use what? They were going to use the temple to set up their monetary system to control the world. Think about this, folks. Freely, my lamb here or my sheep here has as much value as the one in the temple. They were like, no, you don't have to bring that. We got our own. Bring your money. Bring your money, and we're selling you forgiveness. And this is what infuriated Christ, because he understood that plan to control the world through commerce, where you couldn't do anything unless you went through them. Y'all got it? Your stores, your markets, all of this is part of the religious temple of control. And they tried to do it there once they were able to infiltrate after the conversion. Y'all see this? So now, read on.
14, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple.
He drove them all out of the temple. That's one of the rare times you see Christ exercising violence. Because this place isn't just a regular place. The location of that temple isn't just a normal location. Okay? It has prophetic meaning for all of us. Okay? At the very end it says, when it happens, stand in the holy place. He that have an ear, let him hear. That's a gateway. That's a doorway between this earth and the sides of the north. And Lucifer promised to one day go out into the sides of the north. He needs that gate. He needs that location. Okay? Hope y'all follow me. Are y'all following me so far? I'm going to show where it comes down to us now. Right? Elder Lawya.
Yes, sir.
So now our sellouts during crisis time have aligned themselves with Caesar and say, we have no other king but Caesar. And we employ that this man seek. He says, Caesar, he's going to take down that temple and build it up in 3 days. Why would Caesar be concerned about whether or not Christ take down our temple? You never really even asked that, did you? Because they know what that temple was for. We have no other king but you, Caesar. Right? And think about this. It all makes sense. Yeah, Christ, did you pay your taxes? The IRS. So he's telling you what they were going to use. You talk to anyone outside of understanding this geopolitically and according to the Bible, two things are certain when they're outside of anything, outside of God. What they tell you? Death and taxes. And Christ said, whose inscription is on that money? Caesar. If it's face on it, give it to him. So now our people is trying to jam him up, trying to entice Caesar to go against Christ, right? And eventually it works. Because our people came together and said, what? If we don't do something about this guy, let's get into Matthew real quick, where it talks about, they said he's going to take away our place. So here go your sellouts during the time of Christ. Let's read it, Elder Lawya.
Yes, sir. St. John 11:46.
11:46. A matter of fact, Elder Lawya, let's go to John 10 first.
Yes, sir.
Then we go to John 11.
St. John chapter 10, verse number 22.
Start at the first verse.
Verse 1. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber.
So now Christ is dropping it right now, right? He says what? If y'all try to go any other way outside of what I'm establishing, not what they're establishing, not what the Romans established, not what the Sanhedrin has established. If you try to go any other way, these are thieves and robbers, right? So if you want to know the thieves and the robbers of the earth, check out those who are going every each way outside of what I established. Okay? Let me tell you, the Romans and the Edomites, they just use Christ as a front to infiltrate, to get on our what? Our pure and trusting side. But they never really followed Christ. They used him as a proxy. Christ said, nah, if you don't come through what I established, and he was talking about those disciples who would establish what? A temple. Every other religion, every other belief, all of it are thieves and robbers. So who are they going to steal from? Who are they? Who are going to be on the other end of their thievery and their destruction? Us. Every other person that's coming with a religion into our community has a plan. Because their foundation isn't Christ. They're coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And Christ said, this is how you know who's down with me. Not those who say, Lord, Lord. Not those who just use my name as a church front. Those who do the will of the Father. Those who are bold enough to stand up and state, let's find the lost sheep of Israel. Let me tell you, and to let Israel know you've always been ravished, destroyed, stolen from, lied to. Read.
Verse 2. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep.
Come on.
To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out.
He calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. And he have done this from the heavens, folks, up until our time. Many of us were sitting in darkness with no direction. And Christ says, okay, who that? Oh, Sister Elizabeth, come on through. Called it by name. Hey, you. Who your name? Oh, my name is Richard. No, you're Rawchaa. Going through. Who are you? Who are you? Every person that's chosen in Christ's body was personally chosen by him. Personally. He called all of us by name. None of us were any different than anyone in our family or anyone else. We went through the same parents our family went through. We came out of the same hoods, the same lowly means as Christ did. Even when Christ came on the scene and started doing many works, they stated and started asking, what good thing cometh out of Nazareth? Like they say today, what good thing come out of North Philly? Somebody said, me, thank you. Right? What good thing come out of Harlem? What good thing come out of Newark or Brooklyn? Right? What good thing come out of Compton? Read.
Verse number 4. And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him.
Read.
For they know his voice.
For they know his voice. And I remember when I first got this truth, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. I said, I don't know absolutely everything that these guys are talking about, but I'm not going anywhere until I figure it all out. In my mind, I'm like, I don't know what this direction is, but I'm going this way. But guess what? That's Christ. It tells you in the prophecies of Isaiah that you will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, follow it. You may not have it all right now, but you know you're on the path. That was Christ. That was Christ. I didn't know everything, but I'm like, I know that what I'm hearing now was never taught in any institution I learned from. And it personally began to resonate with my spirit. And I'm like, this is the truth. Read.
Yes, sir. Verse number 5.
Come on.
And a stranger will they not follow.
A stranger will they not follow. Read.
But will flee from him.
Come on.
For they know not the voice of strangers.
For they know not the voice of strangers. Read.
This parable Yeshua spake unto them, but they understood not what things they were which he spake unto them.
Go down to the 13th verse.
Yes, sir. Verse number 13.
Matter of fact, what verse are you at there?
We're going into verse number 7.
Okay, go ahead. Finish reading on.
Yes, sir. Verse 7. Then said Yeshua unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep.
Come on.
All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers.
All that ever came before me were thieves and robbers. So now we're talking about who? You got it. Herod, what Herod set up, what they were setting up at the temple, the Sanhedrin, the political system that was established to destroy us, who wanted to kill the baby. That whole structure we see today, Christ was calling out back then. Say, these people aren't the people of Torah. They're the people that's going to help destroy, rob, and kill us. This is why they didn't like Christ, because they couldn't hide behind Torah. They would try to bring out Moses with Christ. Moses? What you know of Moses? Yeah, your father, the devil. You were a murderer from the beginning. You're not the children of the prophets. He was telling the Edomites and all that, the Sanhedrin that. Your spirit bear witness that you killed the prophets, and you'll also kill me. So don't try to say that you're down with Moses and the prophets when what? It's bear witness that you killed the children of the prophets. It was Herod who killed the children. Read.
Yes, sir. Verse 8. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers.
Come on.
But the sheep did not hear them. I am the door.
Come on.
By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pleasure.
Read.
The thief cometh not but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy.
Look at that. Now, mind you, what Christ is saying right here is infuriating the status quo. The politicians, the religious leaders, because now he's pointing out their corrupt system. He's pointing out their corrupt system. Read.
I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly.
Come on.
I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep.
Come on.
But he that is an hireling and not the shepherd,
whose
own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth. The wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep.
See that? He said, listen, these guys are just here for a moment. When the hell come down, they'll be somewhere else. who will go down with their people. See? Read.
13. The hireling fleeth, because he is an hireling and careth not for the sheep.
Come on.
I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine.
Come on.
As the Father knoweth me, even so I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold.
And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. He was speaking about the 10 tribes that were scattered, and many were over here in the Americas by that time. Read.
Other sheep which I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring.
Them also I must bring. Read.
And they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd.
This is why they don't want to teach about the lost tribes of Israel. Because it's Christ's voice that have gathered us together in the same land our forefathers served. The same countries their bare hands built for nothing. That Christ would send his voice to revive the children of Israel according to an age-old prophecy in Hosea. And in 2 days I will revive them. It didn't say after 2 days. We're within the 2 days. And now we're being revived. We're coming back to the knowledge of ourselves. Come on.
Yes, sir. Verse number 17.
Come on.
Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I may take it again.
Come on.
No man taketh it from me, but I lay down myself, or lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again.
Come on.
This commandment have I received of my Father. There was a division, therefore, among the Jews for these sayings.
Now there was a division amongst the Jews for Christ's saying. Because he was speaking about them. And our people had respect for their political established positions. So this caused a division even amongst the political structure of our people. Because now they was like, should we follow Christ because he's the way, or continue following them? So a split began to happen. Now check this out. Read.
Verse 20. And many of them said, he hath a devil and is mad. Why hear ye him? Others said, these are not the words of him that hath a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind?
Come on.
And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication.
It was what?
And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication.
It was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, where Christ made this proclamation. At the same time, the temple was rededicated some 100-some-odd years prior. He sat there and said, the thieves are in our house. Follow this. Follow what I'm showing you, because these people are here to destroy our people. They're infiltrators. See? And it happened on this very same day, Feast of Dedication. And I mean, guess what? And let's see if they're going to, be down with the Savior who was prophesied. Read.
And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And Yeshua.
It was the feast of dedication, and it was what?
And it was winter.
And it was winter. So what are they talking about? The holy days of the Bible is done away with. Every key prophecy that leads to Christ dying for us, holy days are mentioned as a marker. If it said Christmas, you would know if it was related to him, if it said Christmas or Easter, or if it said Thanksgiving. So now Christians don't even know the significance of the Feast of Dedication. Why? Because they're celebrating Thanksgiving. But claim to know our Christ. Read.
St. John 11:45. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Yeshua did, believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Yeshua had done.
Come on.
Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we?
What are we going to do about him? Now they're having, folks, a meeting at what would be synonymous to City Hall. This is a political meeting here. Okay? This is a political meeting. They came together, city council together, and say, what? What are we going to do about him? Read.
For this man doeth many miracles.
Come on.
If we let him thus alone,
if we don't stop this guy, read.
All men will believe on him.
All men are going to follow him. Now, what were they afraid of? Why were they afraid that the politicians, that people would begin to follow Christ? It would disturb the political arena of Rome. It would disturb their plan they have for the temple. Read.
If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him.
All men will believe on him. Read.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
And then the Romans are going to kick us out of office. If you can't deliver your people to me, what is your usefulness to me? If I sent you out there to have your people vote and they're not voting, what good are you to me? So these guys are actually dealing with their political status and their own financial benefit over the benefit of their own people. Does that sound familiar? Read on.
49. And one of them named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them,
Read.
Ye know nothing at all.
You know nothing at all. Imagine standing in the room amongst the high religious leaders who are there conspiring to kill the prophetic one, the one who was sent to save them. Caiaphas, one of the priests, said, you know nothing at all. Read.
Nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people.
He says, don't you know that this is the man that was written? That it is expedient that a man should die for the people. Read.
And that the whole nation perish not.
So that we are spared. So check out this. Read.
In this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yeshua should die for that nation.
Look at that. The high priest there was convinced, you know what? We're talking about killing the prophetic one. And it was prophesied that he had to die, or there'll be no return for the children of Israel. He knew the scriptures of Christ being that lamb without blemish, who would shed his blood on the heavenly table so that we can once again have opportunity for kingdom. He knew this. Imagine being in this meeting. He says, read on.
It says, in this he spake not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yeshua should die for that nation.
Come on.
And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad.
Look at that. And the North American Indians, the Gadites and the Manasseh, the Cubans, and those from the remote parts of the Fiji Islands, like Naphtali and the Hawaiians and the Dominicans, the Australians over there, Reuben, the Baliqua Taino Indian. He was thinking that they knew the prophecies of us being scattered and where we were back then. He says he's the one to gather us back together, but he must die before the gathering of the 12 tribes. Read, and this is why out of all the religions that you are allowed to practice in America, saying you an Israelite is what? Taboo. Your family will accept you being anything, even an atheist. As long as you were a Muslim, a devout Christian, even if you were dabbling in witchcraft, your family didn't, oh, they ain't nothing. A matter of fact, there's this guy who have a problem with, can you hook me, can you grow him a third leg for me? They'll get in on it. They'll get in on it when it comes. You notice that no one sees it's foreign if our people doing witchcraft, voodoo, tarot cards, Buddhist, Christian. But no sooner as they find out that we're Israelites, something changes. As if they see you as a non-family member now. That's a spirit. Right? Read.
53. Then from that day forth, they took counsel together.
They took counsel together.
For to put him to death.
For to put him to death. And it tell you in the 10th chapter, after his saying at the Feast of Dedication that winter, he had to move himself out of the way. They were trying to get him back then. Before the Passover, they were trying to kill him during this time after he made that proclamation that the thieves and robbers are amongst us. Yeah, let's read it.
Verse 54. Yeshua therefore no more openly walked, or Salakia, verse 54. Yeshua therefore walked no more openly.
At that point, he walked no more openly. He refused to be out anywhere by himself, openly. Read.
Among the Jews.
Among the Jews. Read.
But went thence into a country near to the wilderness, and to a city called Ephraim, and there he continued with his disciples.
So he had to move around, knowing that they were conspiring to kill him. Even before the Passover that was coming, they was conspiring to kill him. It was on this feast, the Feast of Dedication, where Christ made a proclamation that would lead to all his own people aligned with the Edomite government that would eventually mean his life. At this point, they're messing with Christ all the way up until what? The crucifix. But this is what they didn't contemplate, because it was a play for that temple. If you control the temple that's dedicated to our people, you control the world. You control the world. Why do you think Islam out of nowhere sprang into great power during the time of Crusades? That was the time that they actually had power over Jerusalem. And through that power, ruling that area for a time, they were able to consolidate power enough to convert all of us in Africa and all of that, because they had the land. Why do you think there's bombings and fights going on over there? Whoever ruled Jerusalem rules the world. It was about that place. See, but the Most High made it where they would have to try to rebuild it themselves, because this is what they didn't bank on after killing Christ. What of that temple that was dedicated and cleaned by the Maccabees? What happened when Christ was crucified? Boy, did he throw a wrench in their game. Let's read it, Elder Lawya. What happened when Christ was crucified? And this is why they had to rebuild things again. Why? Because that location was what? You got it. Rent. A great earthquake happened. And that temple that they was vying for and fighting for even killed Christ, knowing that Christ threatened to one day have power over it, would no longer have what you would call a spiritual force to lead the world economically from. That's what it was about, folks. It was about consolidating the world power of economics from the temple. Like you see now. Just imagine what you see in New York, Wall Street, that big bull in London, the Rothschilds and the financial system. That's why they're offended when anyone talks about it, because really that's the root of their spirit, the spirit of control they have over the world. Now imagine being able to exercise that from the original temple. Right? Let's read it.
Yes, sir. St. Matthew 27, verse number 50.
Come on.
Yeshua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost.
He yielded up the ghost. They killed him. Read.
And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain.
The veil of the temple was rent in twain. The veil is what? That's right. The veil is the curtain that divides the high priest from the Holy of Holies. So at this point, there's no place our people could bring a what? A sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins. The priesthood of sacrifice has now been destroyed out of the temple. Now imagine the priest sitting in the temple when this has happened and the whole veil rips. Now this is the same veil that's between the priest when he have to go on the Day of Atonement each year with a rope tied to him in case his sins are crimson. And if he dropped dead, they would have to drag him out of there. This is where he must go once a year for the Day of Atonement. And he's looking at the temple starts shaking, and the veil ripped. And this is where the Holy Spirit comes through the Almighty to converse and deal with the Levites. There's no place. There's no connection between the sides of the north and that place anymore. There is no priest. But is there? Right? So the priesthood on earth have been destroyed by the one they killed, who would become high priests after a new order, an old order, the order of Melchizedek. So by killing him, they freed him. They freed him to save us. Understand this. So there is no priest. The one they killed, who called us by our name, is now sitting above the Holy of Holies in heaven, the high priest. So understand, that's the temple that will soon replace the one that was destroyed. And this is why they're over in the Middle East right now. They're preparing for a battle. And I'm not talking about the battle against the Palestinians. Okay? Something is coming through that gate. Read.
And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom.
Come on.
And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose.
So there was a great quake, and the temple was rent in two. So they couldn't use that temple for what they wanted it for. It would take them all these years, up until about 1946, 48, to try to get in position, the same position that was lost during the time that Christ broke the temple in half. They were this close. They had the temple. And they would have to get all these years to get back and have political position in that area like they had back then. It took them all these years to get back there, but they're there. Right? Acts 7 and 48, and we're going to end it with 1 Corinthians 3 and 16. And this is why Peter, whom Christ built his church on, his plan to lead the sheep on. This is why Peter said this after the death of Christ, when the true ministry began. That doorway he spoke of. Because they believed that once they killed Christ, it was over. But no, when they killed him, it began. It began. The clock began to tick down on their empire, and the ministry that would lead the 12 tribes of Israel would begin to gather Christ's people. Let's read it, Acts 7 and 48. Let's read this.
Yes, sir. Acts 7 and 48.
Read.
Howbeit, the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands.
And this is why, what? This is why Peter and them stated this. No longer does the Most High come down and forgive sins in your temple. The temple was rent at the death of Christ. No longer does he dwell in your temples. They're just buildings now. Read.
The Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet, heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool.
Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. You cannot use your temples anymore for Satan's power. Right? Now we're being ruled from the temple in heaven. The temple that comes back with the coming of our Lord and Savior. So now that there is no temple that can be destroyed, why are they destroying us? 1 Corinthians 3:16. Because it tells us in the book of Revelations, when they could no longer, when they knew they had a short time, they began to come after the people who brought forth the man-child. His spirit that was once within the temple lies in his people. So how do I get Christ? How do I stop Christ? Well, Christ's body is amongst us. He's the head, but we can kill the body. And they began to strategize through what you would call philanthropy. What you would call what? They would go into other areas claiming that they're there to help and to actually give water and food and blankets and medicine or the gospel of Christ. To only seek our people out where we were scattered to destroy us. 1 Corinthians 3:16, we'll end it there.
Yes, sir. 1 Corinthians 3:16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God?
Know ye not that we are the temple now? So understand what happened when the Most High split that temple in two. His spirit resided on his people. And it would be that spirit that would lead us past the fall of Jerusalem, us fleeing into Africa, us being sold in cargo slave ships, our families being divided through chattel slavery, bombing and destroying our people on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, knowing we were Israelites, knowing that they knew we were Israelites. On and on and on to our present time, we would fall under tribulation. Why? Because the spirit within us threatens the status quo. And that's why the Bible stated, what? Ye are the temple of God. Don't you know that Christ is in you? Don't you know he have called you? Don't you know he sent you to your mother's womb, through the womb, to become his prophets? Don't you know? They do. This is why there'll never be any level of equality. This is why we'll always be under duress and tribulation and marginalized and treated like second-class citizens, because they know that we're the next prophecy. Read it again.
Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you.
The Spirit of God dwells in us. So understand, when we look at that feast of dedication with that clean temple, we have to understand the Most High is seeking us and looking to us to be cleansed as a temple as it was during the time of Maccabees. We are the temple of the Almighty. We're the children of Israel in Christ. And that's right. Gentiles can be a part of this also, because the Bible tells you the Gentiles were on the outer courts, beholding the glory of the Almighty. Brothers and sisters, this is the feast of dedication. We thank the Most High, and we're the children of Israel. And above all, we're back. Right? Praise the Most High. So now we dedicate our spirit and understand that it's not over, like Bishop was saying. We must go through this tribulation and understand, and now that we know the truth, now that we know, the powers that be are seeking to double down. We must stay circumspect. We must stay together. I can't stress that enough. Do we have communion, or are we good? Okay. Next week, okay. Now, before I go, we allow you all to sit down and have a feast. All praise be to the Most High. We're going to have a good time here. All right. I'm going to announce that next week we'll be in North Carolina. Okay. I'll be in North Carolina. I'm going to do the lesson from there. And I think it's Greensboro, North Carolina, right? Greensboro will be there. And all those that are in the North Carolina area for that specific congregation, I would like to meet you all. So it's going to be good there. We'll be in North Carolina next week. And for those who don't know, yeah, the Passover will be in North Kakalaki this year, North Carolina. Right? All praises be to the Most High. We're going to be in North Carolina, and next June, at the end of June, we're going to have our first annual, that's right, all-white concert. Oh, it's going to be super bad. All-white concert. You know, I'm going to get that drum over there, and we're going to get some bands, we're going to get some stuff together, and we're going to turn it up. So it's going to be an all-white concert. We're going in our white, sisters in all white gowns, and man, I can't wait to see that, boy. You know, step in there with that white tuxedo with a black tie, chill. I may put a cape on. I may have, watch out. I may put a satin cape on up in there. Yeah. With some fringes on it. Watch out now. But yeah, it's going to be nice. It's going to be a blessing. So next June, we're going to have an all-white concert. Can you imagine a sea of white? And we sitting there, and the music is playing, and all the artists. We're going to get the brother, Ahia, I worship you. I give my breath to you. We're going to bring him over. And we're going to, all the artists from the UK, we're going to bring over. All the artists in the United States. And it's going to be a good time. So, but right now, we're going to focus on the Passover. All right? It's going to be the Passover. All right? So with that, I'm going to say shalom. Y'all have y'all envelopes. Please support the truth. And, of course, we're going into the power of fasting and prayer to show you how the prophets did it tomorrow in the academy, and I hope you all are there. With that, I turn it over to Bishop. Shalom.
What a beautiful lesson. Let's give it up for the elders. We could do better. Round of applause. understanding the political structures that was against us and are still against us to this day. Praise the Most High for this truth, right? So we're in this memorial, this feast of dedication, brothers and sisters, and not just now, but from now to next week, we're going to just feast and remember to rededicate ourselves to the Most High, to make sure never to forget the day that you first received the truth, right? So with that, we're going to get ready to get this food. You have your envelopes, brothers and sisters. Note that the Passover is coming, so you want to get your seat reserved. So make sure you get your seat reserved. There's no better time than right now to start putting in your Passover payments, okay? With that, as Elder said, the academy's tomorrow. We'll see you all in the academy. But at this time, I'm going to have my brother drummer put some music on so we can take this collection, and then we're going to pray over the food, and then we're going to feast. That's good? All praises.